Yeah, welcome to Service Binding Operator Weekly Developer Call. Today is June 24th, 2021. We have one item for discussion today. If you have anything else to add, please feel free to add here. This is regarding a spec issue that I created. In fact, I was a bit hesitant earlier to whether to propose, create an issue itself. I started somewhere else, started taking some notes, and then it kept on increasing the length and it become a bit lengthy, I guess. I also started getting some responses, some good questions from Pretrack, and then yeah, I also responded, and then some comments from Scott. Okay, somebody else. Okay, okay. So at this point, I'm not fully, convinced about what I'm suggesting or anything. I'm a bit confused state, but there are a lot of good, interesting, points also, especially in the comments that I received, especially some of the good questions from Predrag, and yeah, some thoughtful comments from Scott. So I think what we can do is that I don't know whether everybody has read this one. Can we spend 3 minutes? 3 minutes is okay
Sure.
to read this. Let's see how much you can read. Please try to read. So now it is, yeah, 5:35. After 3 minutes, let's start the discussion. Okay, I'll mute myself. I hope everyone has the link, right? The meet is there in the meeting agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Uh, is it okay or need more time to read? Okay, I'll take 1 more minute. Let's take 1 more minute to read. Okay. Okay, I think let's start. Anyway, you can continue reading because it might need more time to think through. Let me start with some background and why I started thinking about this problem. So first of all, I was started looking at the PR that Igor is working on. Is making that service binding immutable, which was started by Avini sometimes back. And then, yeah, before that, even, sometimes back we had a performance testing. I think Pavel was leading that test, and we realized a lot of performance bottlenecks when testing in the some of our production environment, I mean staging environment. And we realized that watching services and all going to make a real, uh, you know, uh, poor experience. I mean, the it was making it very slow performing system. So we decided to drop, and we got a lot of questions from some of our, I think, vendors, that they really don't need to do this watching, because in production environment, mostly everything works like an immutable resource, and there is no changes happening, constant changes happening in that kind of environment. So these are my motivation to start with. And then I thought, like, how do we bring this topic into spec? Because spec is silent about this kind of things. Yeah, I can see some of the comments coming up, whether this is really a concern of the spec or not. Yeah, it's all about optimization. That's what I was looking at. How do we get the best performance system? What can be done? So first I thought it's like a configuration. It is not really. I don't need. Then later I realized this. We don't need to tackle from a configuration perspective. Rather, we can think like a configuration hint. It's more like a suggestion or idea. So what if you have some kind of hints that is provided by the the CR custom resource, and based on that, the implementation can change the behavior. That was my thought process. So let's say there is a hint saying that let the service binding resource be immutable after the successful reconciliation. So based on that, the service binding can become immutable. And let there be another flag or hint that says don't watch any provision service, I mean backing service. So based on that, no watching of provision service or backing service. Another hint for similarly for application watching. So that was kind of thought process. I tried to. I thought like we could do this in the form of annotations, because changing a field of the actual resource itself, I felt like unnecessary, because these are more like hint, not real configuration, which could be ignored actually by some of the implementation. So that means if some implementation doesn't have this kind of optimizations, they can completely ignore this. That was the reason I thought of adding it like a annotations, which can be respected by the implementation depending on how they're going to look at this problem. So yeah, that is a original thought. Yeah, there is nothing much, and then I started writing some kind of normative text also, how it should be, if at all this is going to be part of the spec, how it's going to looks like. Okay, so that is where I am. There are a few comments also I received. I would like to hear your thoughts also based on. Yeah, just one more thing. I added this quote from the Tony Hare. Actually, this document linked is actually talking about the opposite of that. I mean, questioning whether this something is really premature or not. So it's a good read. You can, when you get some time, please read it. Okay, yeah, let's have it. here. Let me please hear.
Well, just I don't have anything more to add than what I wrote in the comment, and also I agree with what Scott says there. So
Specifically, that shouldn't be part of the spec.
no, if we need to do something, we need to define in the spec what's going on, and like Scott said, semantic. What the Bazou is proposing here is really feels to me as a abstraction leakage. So implementation details leakage into the spec. So speaking about watching services now, so an implementation in theory could also implement things in a different way without even watching for stuff. So we don't know. I mean, the spec should not dictate how something should be implemented. The spec should prescribe what is the semantic of particular fields, actions, what's allowed. For example, if something is immutable, that could be part of the spec. But how we're gonna reach that in implementation is a fully different story. Similar to that, if the specs allows updating the service resources and propagating those updates to the application. So this is something what spec needs to state explicitly or not. Like if this is something which is not really foreseen by the spec, this kind of stuff. So having hints, it's something like annotations. Yes, that could be something, but I would say this is more than vendor specific. So if vendor wants to turn something on and off, it could be like configuration parameter in some configuration file,
right,
or whatever. But I think this is really vendor specific things. And typically those kind of configuration stuff start as a vendor specific thing. And if there is a really common acceptance and makes sense, then it lands eventually into some sort of spec or whatever. Yeah. But first, we need to kind of get experience, as Bazou said, like at the end of the text, like we need to get our experience first in the field.
Right.
So I think this is a premature, like adding these things without really knowing. It's not about optimization. Premature config parameters are root of all evil in a way. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's good so that you thought about that aspect as well, because performance is definitely important. So I like that you've been thinking about that. But enabling or disabling performance optimizations for me in the spec, I agree, is a little bit is most probably tied to the implementation side, as Predrag mentioned. But I was thinking, is it really a lot about performance optimization or the ability to monitor the performances and configure those different aspects?
No, this is about some flags that because I felt like there will be different take on this subject by different implementation. So we based on our experience, we decided to turn off the watches and decided to make this default immutable, right? So that mainly I think from Kafka team we hear that. What if there are some small vendors or somebody else who really want to go in a different direction? Do we need to provide that kind of options also? So that's where I thought, like, if you have some kind of mechanism to turn on and turn off this kind of optimizations, and yeah, I don't know whether this need to be in the spec, like as people are suggesting. This looks like a domain of the implementation. So I'm okay to start with the implementation side. Maybe in future we can, think about that if it is really making implementation very different from each other's or something incompatible way.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are some factual problems also, like this third one that Scott was pointing out. See, this we are the spec is about defining a focused on a semantics of a single service binding, right? But this kind of optimization should be throughout the cluster wide. So that means, just for one service binding, making a decision is also not a good. So that means we should have some kind of what they call cluster scoped resource or something like that, or maybe some. Yeah, I think cluster scoped resource may be one option, or yeah, probably some other, so that this will be applicable throughout the cluster, right? So that way, I think that's a good point, that not a good idea to be part of the CR itself. Yeah.
It's too fine-grained,
Yeah,
simply. And
Right.
you cannot really, like, I don't think that anybody, I mean, it could be added eventually if there is really a strong case for that. But typically you set like some global configuration parameters for the cluster, and then think about like maybe making it optional or overwriting it in a CR if really needed and once not.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think there are some agreement. At least we don't need to pick up this right away. I added this into agenda for the spec meeting, but I told striked off that one. Let's not discuss this unnecessarily, and maybe in future or sometimes. Yeah. So yeah, unless if anybody else have anything else to share, maybe we can move on to some other topic if there is anything. Yeah. No.
I mean, to me, any change or proposal for a change to spec should be driven by some strong use cases. Like,
Yeah.
what if scenarios are just like something we're gonna put a lot of things in the spec, and spec will not be really short and concise and what's not. So whatever we do, like evolve spec in the future, should be driven by strong use cases.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think that Scott is also mentioning this discussion is occurring without numbers or means of measure impact. So
Right.
we need to definitely, we had some kind of, I think, data sometimes back Pavel created, but regarding that, performance, but that should be kept, created, such kind of data should be in a, we should convert some kind of document or something which should be more easy to consume, and that should be backing as kind of support document, right, for this kind of proposals. Okay.
Right. Okay.
I think I don't want to spend more time on discussing. I thought of anyway. I spent some time thinking about that problem, and I created anyway. It was a good exercise. Anyway, if anybody else has anything agenda, we can discuss that. I don't see anything added. Frederick, do you want to?
No.
Okay.
7.
No.
Okay. Good.
No. Yeah.
Okay, we need to pick up someone for next meetings, a moderator, and who is going to take notes.
So next week I will not be able to join.
Okay.
Same. It's the
That is June 1st, right?
Yeah, July 1st.
Oh, yeah, July 1st, sorry. Yeah. Who else is here? Pavel is here. And
actually, on the next meeting, I want to demo the GitHub workflow that I've implemented for service binding operator.
oh, okay. Fine, then let's find next time, then it's okay. Otherwise I can moderate, not a problem. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we sign off,
So one second, let me stop the record. How do I stop the recording?
Same space.
Yeah, same space.